My parents tried to cancel my wedding, to force me back home. But what they didn't expect was where I'd say, I do. The message hit my phone like a lightning strike: we don't approve. You must come home. The wedding is off. Every plan I'd made, every dream I'd nurtured, suddenly felt like it was hanging by a thread. If your family ever tried to control your biggest life moments, you know that sting, the shock, the disbelief, the quiet rage simmering beneath the surface. I had spent months imagining this day, rehearsing the vows, envisioning the smiles, the laughter, the love surrounding us. And now, all of it seemed like it could be snatched away with a single sentence. But I refused to let them dictate my life. The estate where I had poured my soul, the $12 million home I had built from years of sacrifices and late nights, flashed in my mind. This wasn't just a place to live, it was my sanctuary, my statement, my canvas for the life I chose. Every chandelier, every sweeping staircase, every lush garden suddenly became more than decoration. They were my tools, my allies in reclaiming control. By the end of this story, they would see exactly who was in charge, and it wouldn't be anyone who tried to dictate my happiness. Every word, every decision, every carefully planned moment was about to prove that my life, my choices, and my joy were mine alone, and nothing would take that away. The text came through again: we don't approve. The wedding cannot happen without our presence. Come home immediately, or face the consequences. My fingers froze above the phone, trembling, because it wasn't just words, it was a command, a demand, an invisible leash wrapped around my life. Every plan I had made, every invitation sent, every tiny detail I had agonized over suddenly felt like it could be ripped away. I scrolled through the messages again. This isn't about you. It's about family. Do as we say. The coldness in their words made my chest tighten. Years of independence, of building my own path, felt under siege by the people who should have been my support. I tried to respond calmly: this wedding is my choice. I've planned everything carefully. I will not cancel it. But there was no reply. Just a flurry of texts, each one sharper than the last: you will regret defying us. Everyone in the family is watching. Stop this now. My phone vibrated constantly, each buzz a reminder that my family was attempting to wrest control from me, turning a day meant for joy into a battlefield. Anger and frustration bubbled beneath the surface. How could they ignore every sacrifice I had made to make this day perfect? How could they erase my voice, my agency, my dreams, with a few short words? The betrayal cut deep, sharper than I had expected, leaving me breathless and almost paralyzed with disbelief. I leaned back, my heart pounding, and thought about the countless moments they had tried to dictate my choices, my career, my friendships, even minor life decisions. This wasn't just about a wedding anymore, it was the culmination of a lifetime of control, a test I was unwilling to fail. Then a question flickered in my mind: do I fight? Do I yield? I could feel the tension building inside me, the mix of heartbreak, indignation, and quiet determination coiling like a spring. Every fiber of my being screamed for independence, for assertion, for justice, not in cruelty, but in the undeniable truth that my life was mine to shape. And I knew, right then, that this story was far from over. Have you ever had someone try to control your life? Keep watching to see what happens next. Every time I thought about this day, it wasn't just about the vows, the flowers, or the music, it was about everything I had fought for. Years of planning, years of striving for independence, years of building the life I wanted for myself. My parents had always had a say in everything: who I could see, where I could go, even what I wore. Nothing was ever fully mine. And now, the engagement I had dreamed of, the wedding I had meticulously imagined, was under siege before it even began. I remembered the first time they had tried to dictate a celebration I planned. My milestone birthday, a simple gathering with close friends, had been turned into a battlefield. They demanded distant relatives be invited, guests be seated in strict order, even the cake had to conform to their idea of tradition. I had smiled politely, nodding along, pretending compliance, but every yes felt like surrender. Back then, I didn't have the courage, or the resources, to fight back. I had learned that every family joy came with strings attached. But this wedding was different. This was mine. Every invitation I sent, every flower I chose, every detail I had envisioned was a piece of my independence, my assertion of agency. And now, a single text from my mother threatened to unravel it all. The wedding is cancelled. You will return home immediately. Do not defy us. My heart sank. My fingers hovered over the phone, trembling. How could they disregard all I had built, all I had worked for, with just a few words? I tried to calm myself, taking a deep breath, replaying the message in my mind. I could almost hear the judgment in their tone, feel the pressure they had been placing on me for years. Every compromise I had ever made, every small act of defiance suppressed, now collided in my chest like a storm. The sting of betrayal was sharp, the heartbreak raw. My wedding, the day I had imagined as pure joy, suddenly felt like a battlefield I hadn't signed up for. I called my partner immediately, my voice shaking. They're trying to cancel everything. They're saying we have to come back. They're threatening the wedding. Their voice was calm, steady, grounding. We'll handle this together. No one controls our day but us. Don't let them steal your joy. I clung to those words like a lifeline, a fragile rope in a sea of chaos. I reached out to my wedding planner next. The planner's voice was a whirlwind of efficiency and reassurance. We'll make this day unforgettable, with or without their approval. We have contingency plans, alternate setups, backup vendors. Nothing can stop us if we coordinate carefully. For the first time, I felt a flicker of hope amidst the panic. There was a way forward. Still, fear clawed at me. Public embarrassment. Extended family gossip. Friends caught in the crossfire. The humiliation of a wedding cancelled by someone else's will. Every potential scenario played out in my mind, twisting like a knot. What if they forced me to cancel? What if they tried to disrupt the event at the last minute? Every decision I had made felt suddenly precarious, like a tightrope over a pit of judgment and shame. I remembered other times they had overstepped, subtly but persistently. Holidays dictated by their rules, vacations curtailed, choices ridiculed. Each memory was a layer of tension, a reminder of what was at stake. And then, just when I thought I had accounted for every threat, a new message arrived. We're telling the extended family. Maybe the media. Everyone will see you disobeyed. You'll regret this. Wait, what? Media coverage? Extended family gossip? I imagined headlines, whispered conversations, judgment passed before I even walked down the aisle. Every careful plan I had made suddenly felt vulnerable, every effort to create a perfect day at risk. My pulse quickened. The stakes had just doubled, or tripled. I paced the room, my mind racing. Each option weighed heavily: appease them and lose control, confront them and risk escalation, or find a path they could not anticipate. My heart ached with the knowledge that any move carried consequences. Yet beneath the fear, a spark of defiance ignited, a resolve that this day, my wedding, would not be hijacked. I leaned against the table, letting my memories flood in. I thought of my friends who had cheered me on through every hardship, those who had been my silent pillars when family disapproval had felt like the air itself pressing down on me. Their support became a fortress in my mind. I was not alone. This wasn't just my battle, it was ours. The tension twisted tighter as I imagined their reactions: my mother's sharp gaze, my father's stern reprimands, the relatives whispering among themselves, expecting chaos. And yet, with each imagined confrontation, my determination strengthened. If they wanted control, they would find none. Every table set, every flower arranged, every detail I had chosen for the wedding became a silent rebellion, a tangible assertion of my agency. I sat down, breathing deeply, replaying the chain of events in my mind. Each decision I had made, each step planned, each ally aligned, formed a delicate network of strategy. This was no longer about fear, it was about precision, about reclaiming my joy with careful, deliberate action. By the time the sun dipped low, the room quiet except for the hum of the air conditioning, I had made my decision. I would not yield. They could threaten, manipulate, or intimidate all they wanted, but the day, the ceremony, the celebration, the union I had envisioned, would happen. On my terms. And as I looked out at the estate, the home I had painstakingly built, the space that represented freedom, independence, and success, I felt the tension finally shift. Fear had been transformed into purpose. Anxiety into strategy. And in that quiet moment, I knew the storm was coming, but I was ready for it. Ready to take control. Ready to outmaneuver every expectation. Ready to show them that the life I had built, the love I had chosen, was mine, and no one could take it from me. I sat at my desk, the weight of their words pressing down on me, and finally felt something solid rise through the panic, a spark of determination. Enough. I wouldn't let them dictate my happiness. I wouldn't let years of control, criticism, and passive-aggressive manipulation define this moment. My wedding would happen, and it would happen on my terms. The decision came with a rush of clarity, the estate. Every detail I had poured into it, the sprawling lawns, the crystal chandeliers, the marble floors, the gardens that glimmered in the afternoon sun, was no longer just a home. It was my fortress, my stage, my declaration that my life and my choices were mine alone. Moving the ceremony here would be subtle revenge. They couldn't stop it, and yet, they would witness the power of my independence firsthand. I opened my planner and began listing every action, every call, every piece of coordination needed. Vendors had to be contacted discreetly, invitations subtly rerouted, and staff briefed to ensure absolute confidentiality. Every phone call carried the tension of secrecy. The florist had to be convinced that this was a special arrangement, requiring extra effort, extra finesse. The caterer had to coordinate delivery times and menu adjustments without tipping off anyone who might inadvertently leak information. Each call was a micro-battle. "Yes, we can adjust the seating," I said, keeping my voice light but firm, hiding the urgency. "Absolutely, the deliveries will arrive exactly when we schedule them." My heart pounded as I imagined every possible scenario, the florist slipping a word to a relative, a vendor accidentally letting the cat out of the bag. Each small contingency had to be accounted for. I sent out invitations with subtlety, disguised as casual notes to trusted friends and close family who understood the stakes. "We'd love you to celebrate with us," each note read, leaving nothing to hint at the storm brewing with those who had tried to cancel everything. My pulse quickened with every response confirming attendance. Each yes was a small victory, a reinforcement that my plan was moving forward. The estate itself became a labyrinth of preparation. Tables positioned just so, pathways cleared, gardens polished until they shimmered in the sunlight. Every element became a layer of suspense, a trap that would reveal the reality of my independence the moment my parents arrived, or if they dared to arrive. I imagined them entering, expecting to assert control, only to find every expectation subverted. Every detail whispered defiance. Every chandelier glinting in the light was a reminder that I had created something magnificent without their permission, without their input, and they would not anticipate a single step. Even as I worked, anxiety still laced every thought. What if they found out early? What if the extended family had been tipped off? My imagination painted endless scenarios of confrontation, whispered judgment, and the crushing sensation of public embarrassment. And yet, each fear only strengthened my resolve. This was more than a wedding, it was a testament to agency, independence, and clever orchestration. Late at night, I walked through the estate, imagining the reactions. The hallways that had once been empty and quiet now echoed in my mind with anticipation, laughter, whispers, gasps of surprise as guests entered, the glances of relatives who had expected to dictate the day. Each step I took across the polished floors was a rehearsal, a silent vow to myself that I would not yield. The team I had assembled became more than staff, they became allies in this subtle rebellion. Each assistant, each planner, each trusted friend was part of a network designed to protect the day from interference. Every whispered instruction carried urgency: do not let anyone slip the news. Keep it confidential. The repetition of these instructions, the careful coordination, added layers to the suspense, each detail amplifying the eventual payoff. There were moments where I paused, catching my breath, feeling the weight of secrecy. I ran through every contingency in my mind. If my mother arrived early, if my father tried to impose, if a relative attempted to leak news online. Each scenario played out like a chessboard, and I was determined to anticipate every move, to stay 3 steps ahead. And in the midst of all this, a strange thrill pulsed through me. The power to act, to reclaim control, to craft the day I wanted, completely on my own terms, was intoxicating. This wasn't mere rebellion, it was a careful, deliberate, and elegant strategy. My parents had underestimated me. They had never truly accounted for my resolve, for my attention to detail, for the depth of my determination. I imagined the moment of revelation, the first glance on their faces when they realized they could not cancel, could not interfere, could not undermine the ceremony. That spark, that flash of disbelief and subtle awe, became a heartbeat in my chest. Every table set, every flower arranged, every soft light hung just so, was a small victory, a proof that I had outmaneuvered years of control and suppression. And yet, despite the meticulous planning, suspense remained. The possibility of discovery lurked in every corner. Every delivery, every guest arrival, every whispered coordination had the potential to unravel the carefully constructed plan. My mind ran through it all repeatedly, pacing the estate late into the night, rehearsing reactions, rehearsing calm, rehearsing subtle dominance. The excitement was paired with exhaustion, but determination carried me through. Each passing hour reinforced the inevitability of my success. The wedding would happen. The day would be mine. And when it did, every person who had tried to manipulate, control, or cancel my moment would see, with unguarded clarity, the reality I had created. If you love a good underdog story, make sure to like and subscribe. You won't believe what happens next. I closed my eyes and let the memories flood in, each one a sharp reminder of why this wedding meant more than anyone could understand. Independence had never been freely given to me, it had been fought for, clawed out of suffocating control. I remembered my first apartment, the tiny space that smelled faintly of paint and dreams. Every dollar I earned had been stretched, every late night a step toward the life I had envisioned. The estate I now owned wasn't a gift. It wasn't luck. It was the culmination of years of determination, sacrifice, and sheer refusal to be governed by anyone else's will. There had been countless obstacles along the way, all orchestrated, subtly or overtly, by the people who were supposed to support me. They questioned every career move, every decision about my education, every friendship I formed. I had faced dismissive comments at family gatherings, snide remarks disguised as concern, even attempts to shame me for small successes. Each act, small or large, had been a stake in the ground, a way to remind me that nothing I achieved could exist outside their control. I thought back to milestone birthdays, holidays, and graduations. My achievements were celebrated only as long as they fit neatly into their expectations. Anything beyond that, anything that suggested I had autonomy, was met with passive-aggressive criticism, whispers of shame, or pointed comparisons to others they deemed more appropriate. I had learned early on that happiness, recognition, and freedom had to be claimed stealthily, carefully, without fanfare. The memory of my first big paycheck brought a pang of pride and fear. I had imagined using it to assert my independence, to create a life that could not be dictated. And yet, each time I tried, there were subtle jabs, comments meant to diminish my accomplishments, to remind me that I was still, somehow, under their thumb. Every small victory in my personal life had been contested. As I walked through the empty halls in my mind, I replayed the countless moments of struggle. Late nights poring over finances, negotiating contracts, ensuring every decision reinforced my autonomy. The sweat, the anxiety, the moments of doubt, they all coalesced into a quiet but powerful certainty. This wedding would succeed because I had built everything meticulously, because I understood every contingency, every risk, every possibility of interference. And yet, beneath the strategy, there was raw emotion. The years of subtle betrayal, the birthdays overlooked, the holidays hijacked, the achievements belittled, created a furnace of feeling that fueled my determination. It wasn't just about outsmarting them. It was about reclaiming the joy, asserting the right to celebrate life fully, without someone else's shadow looming over it. Even now, thinking about their likely reaction, the shock when they discovered the estate as the venue, the realization that they could not dictate this day. I felt anticipation coil like electricity. Every detail of the setup was more than decoration, it was a declaration. Every carefully placed chair, every string of lights, every elegant bouquet was a testament to the fact that I had earned this life, that my choices mattered, and that their control ended here. I paused, letting the weight of the memories and the power of the planning wash over me. The fears of exposure, of judgment, of confrontation, were real, but the certainty of my agency was stronger. Every ally I had enlisted, every contingency I had prepared, every detail I had meticulously planned, formed a network designed to ensure the wedding could not be derailed. As I thought about the day ahead, I realized the layers of suspense were only adding to the thrill. The unknown reactions of extended family, the potential surprises, the subtle interplay between expectation and reality, it all made the day more alive, more charged. And I knew, deep down, that when the first guest arrived, when my parents walked through the doors expecting to control, they would encounter a reality they had not imagined. Every flashback, every remembered slight, every victory small and large, had led to this day. The wedding wasn't merely an event, it was the culmination of my struggle for freedom, for respect, for autonomy. It was the ultimate proof that years of careful planning, of resilience, of quietly asserting control in a world that often tried to suppress me, could result in a triumph that was unmistakable, undeniable, and entirely mine. The guests trickled in, each step along the estate's cobblestone driveway echoing like whispers of anticipation. The air smelled faintly of roses and polished wood, a delicate contrast to the tension twisting in my chest. Every glance, every footfall, every soft murmur built anticipation. Everyone was here to witness the unexpected. I caught sight of familiar friends, their faces lighting up as they took in the meticulous arrangements, the sweeping staircases, the cascading fountains. Wait, what? Their awe was tangible. I glimpsed my parents at the entrance, a mixture of disbelief and quiet fury frozen across their faces. They had expected chaos, confrontation, perhaps hesitation or panic, but they found a celebration so perfect it stilled their authority. Their mouths opened, closed, searched for words, but the words didn't come. Every moment of defiance, every perfectly executed detail, silently shouted that this day could not be controlled. The flowers lining the aisle shimmered in the morning light, petals glistening as if each one were a tiny beacon of independence. The tables were arranged with precision, each centerpiece a testament to the time and care poured into this day. Even the lighting, soft and golden, seemed designed to amplify every emotion, joy, anticipation, tension, subtle triumph. Every element whispered a single truth: the wedding would not be stopped. Guests whispered to one another, exchanging glances and soft laughter. Eyes widened at the sight of the grand chandelier suspended over the outdoor altar, glinting in the sunlight. Some touched their partner's arms, murmuring their disbelief, while others fumbled with cameras, trying to capture the magnitude of what had been achieved. Wait, what? Even the photographer hesitated for a moment, scanning the scene as if it were too perfect to be real. I felt the weight of my parents' scrutiny as I moved forward. My partner squeezed my hand, grounding me, reminding me that this was not just a personal victory but a shared triumph. Each step down the aisle was deliberate, a silent assertion of control over a day that had been threatened by interference. The cool breeze brushed against my face, carrying the scent of jasmine from the gardens, a delicate counterpoint to the storm of emotion inside me. The extended family arrived in waves, eyes darting, whispering, taking in the grandeur. Their expectation had been one of disarray, drama, or embarrassment. Instead, they found a flawless execution, a wedding perfectly aligned with the vision I had carried in my heart. Their murmurs grew louder, tinged with disbelief. Wait, what? Every carefully laid table, every glimmering candle, every ribbon tied with precision seemed to mock their anticipation. I remembered past gatherings, the subtle manipulations, the belittling comments disguised as concern. Those moments had built the fire within me that fueled this day. Every insult, every dismissed achievement, every effort to impose control had led to this singular, undeniable moment of victory. As I reached the altar, the enormity of what I had orchestrated pressed against me, a mix of satisfaction, tension, and raw relief. The music swelled, a delicate mix of soft strings and triumphant notes, carrying each emotion through the estate. I inhaled slowly, feeling the weight of years of struggle, the culmination of countless late nights, hard decisions, and careful planning. My parents' jaws tightened as they processed the scene. The whispers grew louder among the extended family. Their authority had been bypassed, their interference neutralized. Wait, what? I looked at my partner, and the shared glance said everything. We had won, not through confrontation, not through anger, but through careful strategy, calm determination, and precise execution. The guests' smiles, soft claps, and audible gasps reinforced it. Even the staff, moving gracefully and silently, became silent witnesses to the triumph, a chorus of subtle acknowledgement that everything had gone according to plan. As I reached the center of the aisle, I paused, letting the moment linger. The light caught my engagement ring, sending shards of sparkle across the soft floral arrangements. Every detail, every choice, every decision had led to this crescendo. The anticipation was electric. Guests leaned forward, breaths held, some whispering, some barely daring to look directly at my parents, waiting for the reaction they knew would come. And then, the vows began. Words of love, commitment, and partnership flowed naturally, the tone both intimate and bold. Each promise I spoke, each gesture, was a reaffirmation of autonomy and victory. My parents' faces betrayed fleeting flashes of recognition. They could see that every fear they had tried to instill had been neutralized. The wedding was happening, perfectly, magnificently, without their control. Wait, what? Tension and relief intertwined as the ceremony progressed. Laughter punctuated the solemnity of the vows. The wind shifted, carrying petals down the aisle like a gentle celebration. Every soft clink of silverware, every whisper from a guest, every shared smile between friends and family compounded the sense of triumph. I could feel the invisible pressure from my parents' ease, replaced with a subtle acknowledgement that they had underestimated me. By the time the rings were exchanged, the weight of years of subtle manipulation, belittlement, and control had been replaced by the electric certainty of victory. The applause was not just for the union, but for the undeniable assertion of choice, freedom, and carefully orchestrated independence. Wait, what? Guests could hardly believe the flawless execution of a day they had expected to be fraught with drama. Even as the music swelled and the ceremony concluded, the emotions layered: relief, quiet triumph, joy, lingering tension. Every smile, every whisper, every captured photograph reinforced the narrative I had crafted: a wedding untouched by interference, a celebration claimed fully, completely, and irrevocably by the ones whose voices mattered most. Comment below. What would you have done in my place? The ceremony reached its peak. I felt the weight of every decision, every whispered plan, every calculated detail culminating in this single, electric moment. My parents stood at the edge, their eyes darting, their faces a storm of disbelief, frustration, and quiet confusion. They had expected chaos, confrontation, perhaps tears or drama, but instead, they were faced with undeniable truth. The day had been orchestrated flawlessly, perfectly aligned with my vision, and beyond their reach. The guests were seated, smiles stretching across faces full of anticipation. Their quiet murmurs grew into audible gasps as they noticed the subtle details: the chandelier catching sunlight just right, the flowers arranged in patterns so intricate it seemed effortless, the pathways winding through the gardens like an invitation to explore and marvel. Wait, what? Every element of the estate was a silent testament, a visual argument that I had orchestrated every part of the day with precision and care. I glanced at my partner. Their eyes were full of pride, their hands steady in mine. Every tension in my chest eased slightly, knowing this wasn't just my victory, it was ours. Years of doubt, control, manipulation, and subtle sabotage had all been neutralized. My parents had expected weakness, hesitation, compliance. Instead, they found strength, elegance, and undeniable assertion of boundaries. I began walking toward them, the soft crunch of gravel under my shoes mingling with the whispers and the music, every step deliberate. I could feel the quiet hum of expectation, the almost imperceptible shift in energy as reality dawned on them. The power they assumed they held, the authority, the ability to control, the ability to command, had evaporated in the face of careful planning, resolve, and sheer determination. Wait, what? Their glances flicked between each other, searching for a foothold, a way to reclaim influence, and finding none. I spoke softly, not with anger, not with triumphal glee, but with clarity and calm. This day is mine. Our wedding happens here, on our terms. I love you, but I will not let control or manipulation dictate my life. Every word was precise, every pause deliberate. The words landed like stones in the pond of tension, rippling through the room. Guests shifted subtly, sensing the quiet confrontation, sensing the subtle victory without spectacle. The extended family's whispers grew, eyes wide with recognition. Even those who had expected drama now leaned back, mouths half open, processing the unexpected resolution. Wait, what? Every face told a story of shock, admiration, and slow understanding. I saw the first flicker of humility on my mother's face, a brief, almost imperceptible softening of her features. My father's shoulders tensed and relaxed in succession, as if realizing that the rigid rules and attempts at control had been futile. They had underestimated me, and now the reality was undeniable. This wasn't rebellion, it wasn't disobedience, it was the assertion of autonomy, of earned independence, of careful strategy. The ceremony continued, each word of the vows carrying not just love but triumph, each glance shared between my partner and me reinforcing the bond that had been tested and fortified by adversity. Laughter, soft and joyful, threaded through the crowd, mingling with applause, creating an undercurrent of relief, satisfaction, and shared celebration. Wait, what? Every subtle sound emphasized the contrast between expectation and reality. I watched as my parents' expressions shifted incrementally, almost imperceptibly at first, then with greater clarity. They had expected confrontation, a public spectacle where their authority would dominate. Instead, they witnessed calm, precision, and dignity. The realization of their inability to impose themselves on this day slowly settled over them like a tide. It wasn't humiliation, it was acknowledgement, the silent admission that this day could not be hijacked. As the rings were exchanged, I felt the weight of the past years lift slightly. The estate, the flowers, the perfectly timed music, all of it was a visual and emotional testament to what I had earned. Every effort, every late night, every negotiation and planning decision had led to this undeniable truth: the day was ours, and nothing could interfere. The guests clapped, a sustained and joyous sound that seemed to echo through every hallway, every garden path, every balcony. Even my parents, for all their initial shock and tension, could not help but register the precision, the care, the undeniable elegance of the day. A fleeting glance from my mother suggested understanding, a begrudging recognition that perhaps she had misjudged not only me but my ability to execute, to strategize, to create beauty and order even under pressure. A quiet humility settled over her expression, a hint of what she had missed all these years. The estate shimmered in the late afternoon light, every corner a testament to triumph over control, every guest a witness to the subtle victory. My partner squeezed my hand, their pride radiating in their calm gaze. I had reclaimed my wedding, my day, my independence, and with it, a quiet but powerful sense of satisfaction that extended far beyond the ceremony itself. Wait, what? Every observer, every guest, every participant in this meticulously orchestrated day had become part of the unfolding narrative of quiet triumph, elegance, and emotional victory. And as the final moments of the ceremony unfolded, I realized that this wasn't just about the wedding. It was about decades of subtle battles, small victories, careful planning, and unwavering resolve. Each detail, each decision, each element of the estate, each interaction with family and guests, had been a step toward this emotional climax, the undeniable assertion of autonomy, dignity, and choice. The applause swelled, carrying with it the weight of recognition, acknowledgement, and quiet triumph. My parents remained at the periphery, processing the reality they had underestimated, witnessing the embodiment of careful planning, resolve, and grace. A subtle nod, a soft exhale, a recognition of reality, small but profound gestures that completed the narrative arc. As the last guests began to leave, their laughter and quiet chatter lingering in the golden light of the estate, I took a moment to breathe. The day had unfolded exactly as I had envisioned, every detail meticulously planned, every contingency accounted for, every challenge met with quiet resolve. And now, standing in the center of the estate, I could feel the weight of years of struggle slowly lifting, replaced by a deep, steady sense of independence. I reflected on the path that had brought me here, the countless small victories and defeats that had shaped my ability to act decisively, to claim my joy, and to assert boundaries without losing grace. There had been moments in the past when I had felt powerless, when the pressure of control from others had seemed insurmountable. But each obstacle had taught me patience, strategic thinking, and the value of quiet determination. Today was the culmination of all of that. The estate, now quiet and still, seemed to echo my inner triumph. The chandeliers glimmered softly in the fading sunlight, the gardens whispered in the gentle breeze, and the polished floors reflected not only the physical space but the journey I had undertaken to arrive at this point. It was a tangible reminder that the life I had built, the decisions I had made, and the dreams I had chased belonged entirely to me. I allowed myself to feel the relief that had been building beneath the surface all day. Relief that the wedding had proceeded without interference, that my plans had succeeded, and that the people who had tried to control me had been met with a reality they could not influence. Relief that my partner and I had shared this triumph together, side by side, as a team strengthened by years of shared struggle and support. And yet, within that relief was a bittersweet nostalgia. I thought of the tension, the emotional pressure, the moments of doubt and fear, and even the subtle betrayals that had defined so much of my relationship with my family. There was a sadness there, a recognition of what could have been different, a memory of the times when guidance had felt like control, support had felt like manipulation, and love had been complicated by expectation. It was a mix of sorrow and gratitude, of remembering the struggle and honoring the growth that had emerged from it. I looked around at the empty tables, the scattered petals, and the lingering scent of flowers, and I felt joy, not just for the successful wedding, but for the assertion of self-respect and personal agency. This day was more than a celebration of marriage. It was a declaration that I could honor my values, pursue my dreams, and craft my life without succumbing to pressure or fear. Every decision, every planning detail, every calculated move had reinforced the truth that independence, once earned and claimed, could not be taken away. In the quiet moments that followed, I reflected on the lessons this journey had imparted. That strength is often quiet and deliberate, not loud or confrontational. Those boundaries, once clearly defined and respectfully enforced, carry power that cannot be undermined. That joy, when cultivated with care and intention, becomes a source of resilience that carries you through even the most difficult challenges. And as I considered the subtle but undeniable shift in my parents' demeanor, the fleeting humility in their expressions, the tentative acknowledgement of their overreach, I realized that even moments of tension and conflict could result in growth, understanding, and transformation. The victory today was not only for me but a gentle lesson for those who had tried to dictate my life, that respect, autonomy, and careful strategy cannot be ignored. A soft smile spread across my face as I pictured the future, the possibilities that lay ahead, the life I would continue to build, the moments of joy, challenge, and triumph that would follow. There was a quiet exhilaration in knowing that I could navigate the complexities of family, love, and life with both grace and authority, that each choice I made could honor both my heart and my intellect. If you loved this story, share it with someone who's ever had to stand up for themselves. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more real-life drama. And even as the estate grew quiet in the fading sunlight, I sensed the subtle promise of new stories yet to unfold, challenges that would test courage, moments that would demand strategy, and victories that would reaffirm the power of determination. The day had ended, but the journey continued, a cinematic rhythm of life, choice, and consequence that would carry forward into new chapters, new conflicts, and new triumphs.